Welcome. This is the DNX Show. We're here every Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. There's two hosts of this show. I'm Todd Ryan. My co-host is Josh Reason out of Florida. I'm on the West Coast. He's on the East Coast. Hey, Josh, what's going on today?
What's up, Todd? Nice to be here again. Good to hear from you. Let's go.
Thanks. Hey, yeah, it is a fun show. I want everybody to know, and Josh and I say this is laid back. I actually, if you go to dnxshow.com or dnx.show, sure, I put some topics there, and I have some links to some of these articles that I'm talking about. But this is just laid back. We just want to talk about domain investing. It's real fluid, meaning, there's a ton of things that happen all week long, and some of them we'll talk about, some of them we won't, some of the stuff from last week, but basically open conversation, and we mean that. So, I guess, raise your hand just so I can invite you up. But yeah, the very first thing, Josh, I was talking about, like I said, at dnxshow.com, you can see some of the topics we're going to cover, but that's just a few of them. So DNWE, you spent a couple years with Josh Schoen, basically operating that. Now I know Ryan is on to some other things. He picked it up from you, but that's closing down. Any feelings regarding that?
I mean, not particularly. It's a little bit sad. That was my first. That was my first venture, I would say, into like development. Within the domain space, and I think most people agreed and continue to agree that it was a pretty good idea and it served a good purpose and people liked it. Um, I think there might be an opportunity for someone else to do something similar in the future as technology continues to develop and sales enablement becomes slightly easier, automation becomes slightly easier. I think a lot of it comes down to automation when you're talking about like wholesale stuff. It's not easy to automate. We had it pretty well automated when we were using Dan. That integrator functionality got taken away. And I think that's probably made things a little bit harder for Ryan and his team. Just spending a lot of time on that side of things. The payment side of things was probably not his best use of time, which is probably why he's going a different direction. I haven't spoken to him about it, but that's my guess. But yeah, I mean, these things happen, right? Things come and go.
I think people are going to miss it. If you're going to miss DNWE, come up, let us know the reasons why. I think there's definitely going to be a hole in the space, a tiny bit. Josh, people think you just can set these sites up, set it and forget it, but it takes attention, and Ryan's going to be working on some other things, and it's like this, his brandable.uk, his other, I don't know if it's domain managed that he's not going to be working on, but he basically is focusing his efforts, and certainly want to get Ryan in here sometime to tell us what he's working on. Big portfolio, done a lot of testing, picked up a lot of 4-letter from me and did a lot of cool testing. And we're going to talk about data. And I loved seeing his posts on Name Pros, regarding the testing that he did with these 4-letter names, but really just his different sales strategies and listing names at high prices, seeing if that works, or having a bunch of lower priced names. Does the volume make up for the lower price? But so DNWE, I think I've used it a couple times buying names. I really liked, I think any type of wholesale marketplaces are helpful. I saw Matt from Unstoppable, I believe, or maybe it was Brady, who mentioned Name Liquidate. Of course, we all know Name Liquidate was over there at Epic, and that was when you're looking to get rid of a name. Say you're letting it drop. Well, why not auction it if you're going to drop it? So I certainly agree with that. And Name Liquidate was those what they call Dutch auction. I thought it started at $100, started at $1,000, and then by the time as the days pass, no one buys it. the price keeps getting lower and lower till it's down to like $10, I guess. But I like that idea of having a marketplace for names you don't want anymore. And people can think that's your trash. Listen, a lot of people, that's why there's yard sales and garage sales and stuff like that. You might not want this antenna that is an old fashioned type of antenna for a TV. Somebody else is like, fuck, I needed one. I was having trouble finding one. A VHS player, anything. Bottom line is, one person's trash can be another person's treasure. I mean, I've done it. I'm about ready to drop names. Well, I'd rather, it is a headache to have to do the transaction and sell it for $25. But if there was a platform that allowed for, true, wholesale, I think there is something there. But anyway, I think Brady and Matt brought it up. Do you think, Josh, is there room for something like that? It's the super low end. It's basically names you don't want. You're liquidating them. Is there room for a platform like that?
Um, hmm. I've talked a little bit about my viewpoint on this over the last couple years, and that my point of view has changed slightly. Um, do I think that there's room for it? Yes, I think there might be an opportunity for someone to do that if they can dial in the automation to a pretty high degree, and they um, yeah, have some experience with the payment processing side. Um, I think there are ways to do it, but I don't think it would be a highly profitable endeavor. Um, I do think that there is something. There's a desire in domain for domainers to keep retail pricings intact while also while also offering the domain at a wholesale price. Um, in the event that you don't care about that, I've mentioned it before, but I do think just simply listing on Afternic for a wholesale price is probably the most effective way to sell your names quickly.
Yeah, I don't know why some of us, including me, don't do that. If I want to sell a name for 25, why don't I just list it for 90 on Afternic? Or um, is there a minimum price that you have to list on Afternic? Do you know?
I think it's $50.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's a lot more eyes, like now the people that use DNX, a lot more eyes are looking at changes in pricing and true wholesale pricing. So I think something I
Oh,
might,
definitely. We
yeah.
we we have, yesterday we had a deal for 20K. Today, uh, we had deals for $50. And then another one for $50, another one for 100. I mean, people using it all across the spectrum. So, um, yeah, it's not. I think there's a little bit of a misconception that buying on the aftermarket is for people that want to play at the high end of the market, which is simply not true. So, yeah.
I'm wondering if a place like Expired Domains, I don't know how they would do it, but if it said, "Hey, buy this name from the current owner before it expires, right, for $50, but buy this name from the current registrant for $90," even though they're dropping it, go ahead and
Mm,
cut it off at
that's
the
like Name
pass.
Liquidate,
Yeah,
like Name Liquidate did. I do think that if a registrar has the if their primary objective is to be domain investor friendly, I do think that something like Domain Liquidate is an extremely good way to get investors to hold their portfolio with them. So if you're looking for domains under management, I would say just look at Name Liquidate and try to replicate that in a way. Maybe I think it could be executed better, but yeah, I listen. We've got plans. DNX has plenty of plans, and I can talk. I don't want to talk about it now, but we'll talk about them. We'll talk about it more over the next few months. Um, but yeah, if your goal is to get domains under management, which I know a lot of registrars have that goal, then to put it quite simply, build innovative tools that are not that profitable, but are very beneficial to the domain investors, and it will go a long way.
We're going to talk about huge domains a little bit today because some news. But at NameBright, I like, I've mentioned it a couple of times. I like the whole idea of it seems like you're going to drop the name, go ahead and auction it through Dropcatch. They are trying to be friendly to domain investors. The thing you need to do is have your name at NameBright at their
Yep.
registrar.
Yep.
I mean, I'm
And
gonna.
that makes sense.
I
And
wish
that
I,
makes a
I
ton
wish
of
I had
sense.
all my names there because each month when I'm dropping, Todd, I could just move them there. I got allegiance to GoDaddy. They've always been good to me for a lot of reasons. Give me a lot of free services over the years, and the support and my rep. I mean, I really like it, and really just do business with friends. That's the bottom line. I know they're a big company, but I've never looked at it that way. I looked at the people that I deal with there, and they're friends of mine. So friends do business with friends, and so even if it's saving me a few bucks to transfer. Now that said, um, if I had all my names at GoDaddy each month, and I thought I was pretty much done dropping names. I'm at a little over 1,000 names. I'm about done dropping, but each month I see you kept this crap from last year. I mean, I've been dropping names for the last couple years, trying to clean out my portfolio of just crap, and each month I think you've paid it. Have paid 10, 15 years on this piece of junk, and and so then there's nothing, if I was at Namebright, I would know, fantastic. I look a few months ahead. I would say, go ahead and put this at drop catch, no reserve. People like the names. I mean, I'm going to sell some of the names. What percent, I don't know, but more than 10, 20% I'm certain of. Especially, I mean, I believe that. So, so what I do at GoDaddy is just tell my rep, drop these, don't renew these. And then nothing happens. And then I come on here like a loser. Hey, I'm trying to sell these names. Some of them I'm not dropping. It's just bullshit. I'm dropping them. Why would I offer for 25 bucks? But I just can't take the,
Dude.
some of us have been raised certain ways. You can't, it's like throwing out, there's not even a goodwill, I mean, throwing out stuff. It's not, somebody else does find value in it. So, I don't know. I'm going to be messing with Namebright more in the future, but wondering if Unstoppable is going to try something like that. Well, what's this about huge domains, Josh? They're back using GoDaddy. What do you mean they're back using GoDaddy? They stopped for a while. They weren't buying, or they
They
weren't using
stopped
the
for a
fast
long
transfer.
time. They stopped for, it's probably been over a year now that they basically, when GoDaddy introduced the name server penalty, so around the time that they acquired Dan, um, Hugh, I think it's pretty well known that Huge and GoDaddy had a bit of a falling out. They stopped buying in the auctions, and then they actually shortly after removed all of their domains from GoDaddy. They kept them on Cedo, but they didn't have any names on GoDaddy, which they have about 5 million, I believe. Um, and I think that it was a combination of things, including name server penalties, boost, blah blah blah, and obviously for them, they're doing things at a different scale. They have their own landing pages, they have their own payment plans set up. So I think that probably the name server penalty was maybe just a non-negotiable for them. Uh, what it looks like now, well, I can tell you for sure that those 5 million names or whatever have been added back into the Afternic inventory. So and Huge are selling via Afternic again. People speculate on whether or not they got some sort of deal. I think in most, to be honest, it's pretty likely that they did get some sort of deal. I would speculate without knowing that they're probably not having to pay the name server penalty of 10%. Um, I would say that probably part of the negotiation was that if they don't pay the name server penalty, that they have to use Boost. It looks like they are using Boost. Um, you know, we don't know what they're paying, but I would guess they're paying 20% with no name server penalty, and that makes sense for them. Um, based on my information, I know that um, they did experience the drop in sales from not being in the Afternic network, but they wanted to continue to prove their model without being reliant on GoDaddy, which they did, and I think that when when a deal was able to be worked out, which it clearly was, it made sense for them to get back into the network. So um, this is me piecing together lots of different little bits of information, which in my eyes brings us to the most likely scenario, but by no means don't take what I'm saying with a grain of salt.
Okay, so that makes it clear to me. I was when you posted GoDaddy added 5 million this first quarter. I was like, how do you, what? And okay, so they re-added the huge domains, and of course, um, that's great for DNX because now you don't have to worry about all those names. Or as soon as they're part of Afternic, now they're in your search within the search at DNX. That's fantastic. I mean, because for a
Yeah,
while,
yeah, I absolutely want Afternic to do well, but because also GoDaddy, in my opinion, as a domain investor, just GoDaddy, I think does a lot for domain investors and just doesn't get credit for that. And if you know me and if you talk to me regularly, you know that I have plenty of issues and I have current issues um, that annoy me with bugs and things that don't work the way they should. But I'm still very cognizant of the fact that, like everyone says, GoDaddy is the industry giant, and as a domain investor, it would be short-sighted, I think, to say that they don't they're extremely impactful on our business. Uh, so I want them to play nicely with domain investors, and I'm grateful that they do. Because I wouldn't particularly enjoy a scenario where they didn't.
Abdul Basit, of course, we know the story now. He said he's leaving Afternic. He's removed all of his names from Afternic, removed them all from CETO. Um, if anyone here in the crowd has ever done a little bit of a test by removing their names from Afternic for a while, or sometimes just you haven't removed them completely, but you're using your own landers as opposed to their landers, and you saw some change in your sales, please share with us. But okay, so huge domains. I believe you,
I can tell you
yeah.
I can tell you of one prominent domain investor that doesn't have his names listed on CETO or Afternic. That's Adam Strong. Um, he says that the velocity and quantity of sales is down significantly, and he's not one to go into detail, by the way, so you won't pry much information from him. But his objective is to maximize revenue per domain. So maximize each sale, and that's kind of like the Rick Schwartz approach, right? I don't think Rick sells on CETO or GoDaddy. He takes every inquiry on a case by case basis and tries to, and well, not just tries, he extracts max value from each sale that he gets. Um, so I think that if you are, I'll be honest, I think that this is a viable way for a non-active domain investor with a high quality portfolio. Um, Adam Strong is not a big buyer. Rick Schwartz is not a big buyer. Neither of them are big buyers anymore. Both of them have pretty large portfolios, but high quality, I would say, portfolios in relative to your average domain investor. So I think that this strategy is a lot more viable for them than it is for your average person that we communicate and see every day in the domain space. So again, you can start comparing yourself to other people, but you want to make sure you're comparing to the right person and the right people. Um, and someone mentioned just the other day, oh, don't we can't compare ourselves to huge domains. That's actually one of the best comparisons that you can possibly make, because what they're doing is what everyone else is doing, but at a much larger scale. Um, so looking at what they do in terms of pricing, in terms of listings, in terms of uh, lease to own, these kind of things, that 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 kind of data is important.
Yeah, I saw your comment on that, and we got so much to cover today about data too. But I saw your comment about saying, yeah, huge domains exactly that. They sell a lot of names. Most of their names are priced under 5K or certainly under 10K, and that's where most domainers have their names priced. You'd mentioned Adam, and I saw, and I'm talking about ADAM now, Adam Strong. Yeah, I saw his comment that he said he had been, doing this test for 3 years, 4 years, and we know he has a great portfolio of names. I still think, and I want to ask him and ask Rick. All right, so why wouldn't you just put them for, this name that you won a million
Exactly,
for, 3 million, put
exactly,
2.8 million on Afternic, and then when the guy calls you, for one,
exactly.
eventually that person that went to Afternic, if you resist negotiating, they're, you know, at least they're aware that the name is
Yeah,
for sale, and why wouldn't they go directly to it? Meaning, it just seems like it could not hurt if you handle it the way you want to handle it, meaning pricing. So, and I know you.
yeah. I mean, I think that these guys are also there's some personal bias involved in that, right? I don't think they want to give GoDaddy any of their business anymore. I think they're happy to sacrifice a sale if it means that GoDaddy's not making an extravagant commission off their name. And they're in a position where they can make those kind of decisions. Um, Most of the other investors I know that are not that have decided to use their own landers or want to gather their own data uh, are also listing their names on Afternic and mostly on Cedo and on Spaceship. They're looking for maximum exposure. They've probably priced their names on those platforms slightly higher, but then they're using their own landing pages for an opportunity to close more deals, collect more customer data, and I think that makes sense. But neglecting to list on the marketplaces altogether, interesting test, um, ballsy move, I would say.
Yeah, and Abdul Bassett has about, I don't know, he's mentioned it before, but like 15, 20,000 names. So his,
I think 11,
okay,
eleven
or
thousand.
11, right. Okay, so it will really mean something to him, meaning, I guess, the data, the experience that he gets. But you were saying, I don't know. I mean, you wouldn't do that. You mentioned that you wouldn't do that. I'm curious, like, about the bad relationships. I can understand saying I don't want to give that company I prefer not to give them 20%, 25, 30%. But it's almost like, was there such a bad experience with a company or an individual that's still there, just someone who you're like, I'm absolutely not, because it's like, yeah, you don't like to pay, people don't like to pay lawyers, you don't like to pay big fees, big commissions, but if they find you that big sale, I just think I can understand people thinking I prefer not to, but to be so angry to shoot yourself in the foot. I mean, let's face it. I don't care if you got, because I'll talk to all the guys that have the biggest, best portfolios in the motherfucking world. And we know the domain business is fucked up. You have a great name. You might have had this beautiful single word name for 20 years, and you want 3 million for it now, or 5 million. You still are not getting mid six figure offers for it. The domain space is unusual. Okay.
Mm.
We want it to be more liquid, and we want those big names to, um, you know, I can sell them at any time. It's just not the case. So to be, I don't even, I don't know. It's just a small world, and if there's not something that they did to you, they didn't molest you some way. What I would do is say, I would use them how I would use them, meaning, price wise and so on. But listen, the top guys can absolutely, and I say the top guys, when you have great portfolios, they believe that the names bring the traffic directly there. And we know, listen, some of us,
Mm.
you don't have to have a great portfolio to know some names get direct navigation, or somebody looking for that name will go directly to your own lander. So it could benefit you. But overall, um, overall anyway, we know sales come from some of these bigger platforms. So well, there's a lot. So about GoDaddy, there was something about I mean, so you obviously think that they should, loosen up on the penalty? I mean, I don't know how you feel. Do you think they should, but no
No,
need to? I mean, about that, basically the penalty for not
on the
using their
name
name
on the
servers.
name on the name server penalty.
Yep.
I mean, I I always try to think about this from a business standpoint and not a domain investor standpoint, right? I mean, everyone says like, "Oh, the GoDaddy, you should absolutely loosen up on the name server penalty," and it's like, yeah, of course you think that. You're like your business is a domain investor. My business is a domain investor. Of course I think that. But now, like logically, does that really make any sense? One of the main reasons why they had to spend, tens of millions of dollars on Dan is would have been 100% preventable if they had that name server requirement uh, beforehand. And call it what you will. They're essentially saying if you want access to our network, in order to do so, you need to use our landing pages. It's their network. It's their rules. If they you know did away with that, um, you know, platforms like Domain Easy and others will start to crop up like nobody's business, and guess what? They'll have a viable revenue source and business model that will enable them to compete at a higher level. And why would GoDaddy want that? Why would they want to entice players into their arena, which may ultimately end with them having to acquire them for way more than what they're worth. Um, that's my view on it. I mean, as a bit from a business standpoint, I can't see that happening.
I've always looked at it as they're not penalizing people; they're rewarding you for using their name servers. But I've always felt that our names are valuable. If you use someone's name server, they should pay the renewal, especially for .com. We know it's $10, but I've always felt that way because they using the name servers is valuable to these companies. That's the main thing. Not only do they want your name at their registrar, that's the first step. The second step is they need you to use their name server, so they really want that for numerous reasons. Okay, and uh, and then of course,
Traffic to GoDaddy, all kinds of things. Yeah.
and then furthermore, then they want you to use their other services. Then you have to have their name servers to be able to use their hosting and so on. But it really is what these companies need. Josh, how do you know that someone has Boost on? You said you can tell if someone has Boost on. How do you know?
Mm. Yeah, I mean the most obvious one is the verified badge, right? So, um, if you go to one of my names, if you go to projectnightfall.com, for example, um, projectnightfall.com, and you go to my landing page, it's a custom landing page, and there's no verified badge next to it. If Boost was enabled on this name, you would see a verified badge next to, like, on the landing page, and you would also see a verified badge in the GoDaddy reg path. Neither of which show. So that's the most obvious way. Obviously, the other features that come along with Boost are less obvious. That's more about like uh, search placements and whatnot. Um, but yeah, if you don't, if you've got Boost on and you're not seeing the verified badge, then there's some sort of syncing issue going on.
I'm going to check one of mine, but so Project Nightfall. I see it says premium and verified domain, but that's not what you're talking about.
Does it?
It says, yeah, it
Wait,
says
where does it say that?
under get this domain. So I see on the right, right.
Oh, so that means that my Boost is finally working. That'd be nice.
So you turned it on because you didn't have it on for a while, right?
Yeah, I turned it on. That's a whole ordeal.
Yeah.
I turned it on, but it hadn't synced, as far as I was aware. But it does. I'm not seeing it on my side, so I don't know if that's a caching issue or is anyone else seeing it?
Yeah, raise your
Can I get like a thumbs up
yeah,
from people that
and
are
then
seeing a
and
verified
the
badge?
first person that comes up here and says anything, um, I don't know what I'm going to do for you. Something big. A
Something huge.
yeah, I do see. And that lander, the one you're using, it's different than mine If you go to lfod.com, I see mine says premium and verified as well, but it's that different
Yeah,
lander,
yeah.
but it's this really
Oh
looks the
yeah,
same.
yours is the GoDaddy Buy It Now lander. Mine is the custom lander.
Okay.
So my lander has that kind of that old Dan type feel. Um, and yours is the first version of the GoDaddy lander. My one, if I want, I can add make offer to it, and I can add lease to own options on there.
Yeah.
Um, this particular name, so like one thing that I like to do, whether this is something that I've just been testing recently, is that I like to have the custom landing page, the one that I'm using, with just the buy it now price on it, without showing the lease to own on the landing page. I do actually have lease to own enabled, but not on my landing page. If you go to the reg path and type in projectnightfall.com, you'll see that lease to own is enabled on it. But I like the idea of making someone work for the lease to own as opposed to just showing it right off the bat. So, someone who's motivated to buy that name, but maybe just like a little strap for cash, is going to be more likely to maybe find the lease to own option as opposed to someone who just lands on the landing page and is motivated to buy the domain and and um, and just goes and buys it anyway. I in my opinion, I want to try and mitigate against people using the LTO if they don't actually need to.
I don't
Because me as a buyer, personally, like if I commit to buying a name and I see that there's an LTO available, I will LTO it 100% of the time.
well I
Um,
clicked on next. How do they find out it's available for LTO? They have to call in, you mean?
I mean, they just, I guess, call in or go to the GoDaddy reg path, or
Okay, GoDaddy
maybe,
Reg Path. Yeah.
maybe I just lose the customer. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I don't like. I really, really struggle with the idea of just offering LTO willy nilly.
I mean, it seems to me like that totally helps. Hey, Ish, thanks for being the first one up here. You can't believe what you're going to get. Special gift. I'm looking through my,
I'll send you my crypto wallet. You can just send the
I'm going through
Bitcoin
my
there.
junk drawer right now. Some kind of adapter. I'm gonna
I
see.
just don't.
I don't
Ish,
want your
do
close
you
out
see?
domain names.
Hey, Ish, do you see verified domain on my landing page?
I'm so sorry. I'm not by my computer right now,
Oh,
so I
okay.
didn't get to check it. No, but I wanted to speak about this lander thing because, it's the it's a $1 million question, and with what Abdul Bassett did, it's sort of like it's very controversial. Personally, I think it's self-destructive to remove your names from anywhere you have distribution, specifically Afternic and other marketplaces. I, you know, took the initiative to do an A/B testing of my portfolio, and the names that I have forwarded to a lander, um, I see a lot of, because I'm able to track it. I see a lot of traffic on them, but I don't see enough activity, right? And like I was telling Darcy in the DM, all roads lead back to Afternic. You know what I mean? Because so for me, what you said about the LTO really matters. I don't want people to just, my preference is to get paid in full. So I like to have the luxury of being able to speak with people and directly negotiate on my own assets. And I think that's something that we grossly underestimate. I sold a name last month, prepaidai.com. It was a $35,000 LTO. And every part of that conversation was in my control. I was able to speak with the guy. I have the guy's information. And beyond that, I'm now a consultant for the startup, right? So I'm making some extra money on that. So I think when we buy these names, we might have some sort of vision of what it might become. And when that entrepreneur or those entrepreneurs come around and go, we want to build that vision on this name, and you see that you have some sort of like similar interest, then you have a huge opportunity to be part of that team. And I think that is a big, big deal. So, like, there's a certain grade or caliber of names that I think you're better off having full control of all the inflow, all the interest, and being able to gauge if there's a way you can insert yourself in the journey, because you never know where it's going to end up.
We keep it quiet after that just so you can think about what you said. Insert yourself in the journey. I'd like to do that myself in my own. Hey, so Ish, and we talk about Abdul Basit. We actually, it's almost like it's funny that he's so well known in the space, successful and full time domainer. And he mentioned that his sons are doing it, and he's like they're still on Afternic. But the thing is, when you're a full time domain investor, it seems to me, right, the saying content is king, distribution is King Kong. Ish said it. There's only so much distribution in this place. So it's like if it's a TV show and you're mad YouTube charges too much, but then you're allowed to be on there and charge more. So let your folks who want to see it on YouTube go there. And distribution in the domain space is so limited. So to think you're a full-time domainer, you would figure out what's the best way to deal with all this bullshit, all these different distribution requirements. But you certainly wouldn't want to limit yourself. But people, they're doing it for specific reasons. Don't want to pay that commission, even if it means they're going to net the same amount. So me, I just, I'm not that mad at any place, I mean, that's Cito, Adam. I'd like to be at every place and know, really, I think there's a good spot for a platform to say, hey, I have this name for sale. I want to net $10,000 for this name. Now you, as the platform, go to all these distribution channels, every last one of them, and put me on whatever it takes so I net 10,000, and break yourself off 500. But anyway, we know what we want to net something, and it's been over the years so difficult to know if they paid GoDaddy for the $69, I guess now, to to inquire about a name, hire their brokerage. Then you don't have to pay the commission. But if it's a 38-month lease, the commission, you don't have to pay the commit. If it's this and you don't have boost on, so much bullshit. You want to just say, I want to net this amount for this name. Now fucking all you guys feast on it. As Ish knows, I say they're hyenas too. We're hyenas, they're hyenas. I mean, okay, if anybody want to check out some things we're going to go over today, you can go to dnxshow.com. That's why we have a website. Really, the reason we have a website is so if you think I can't find the link on X, or I can't find the replay, if you go to dnxshow.com, I have links so you can, find us, listen to us live, or, catch a replay. There was an article Darpan wrote for Forbes that I wanted to touch on, and I reached out to Darpan, and he said he's busy today, and that he'll see me in a few years. He said, I'm busy, Todd. I'll catch you in 2028. Probably see him at sure, and I will at NamesCon. But he wrote this article for Forbes. I thought it was a fucking great article. Did you have a chance to ever see that, Josh? I mean, I got some comments on it, but just curious if you had a chance to see that article in Forbes.
Wait, that was the one from a couple months ago?
I thought it was a couple weeks. I thought it was just like a week
Maybe
or
a
two.
couple weeks. Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah. Well, the comment, Ish, did you see it?
No, I didn't see it.
Well, there's a link on our outline. But anyway, the cool thing is he basically had it real simple, real short, not a long article, but it's in Forbes. So we're thinking, okay, somebody that's not in the domain space is reading it. But he was talking about the reputation problem that domains always had. He's trying to say this is a real asset class. Domain investing is a real business with professionals. But, the reputation problem was from the early days when people would hand register. And I don't know why we say hand register. It's stupid. Just register. Okay, they register brand names and trademarks, and it was a big issue early on. And then they came up with the UDRP. So then brands and trademark owners, same thing, could get their name without having to go to court. There really wasn't the ACPA. They both came in about the same time, the UDRP, and then federal laws to let these brands go after people using domain names, basically, with their trademark in it. But Darpan was saying today domain investing has evolved. It's really about investing in generic, descriptive, creative names. He said a great line. He said it's investing in language, and he's basically just making a case for all of us and for his company as well to say, these domain investing is a legitimate business. People are buying, and like I said, generic, descriptive, creative type names that many companies can use, and now there's several marketplaces that offer these names, Adam being one of them. But I really like that he said it's a unique asset class that combines scarcity, utility, and liquidity. And the liquidity part, how liquid are they? But that's pretty cool, Josh, right? Unique asset, scarcity, utility, and liquidity. Is that, you think that, I mean, that is true?
Scarcity, utility, and liquidity. Yeah, for the most part.
I mean, the liquidity is what we always, sort of like a hurdle or a speed bump or an issue.
I mean, but
Basically,
Todd,
yeah.
to chime in there, the liquidity exists. What it is the uniqueness is what you need to understand how it correlates with the liquidity, because every domain name is unique. It's not like one Bitcoin and you have two of them, or one stock and you have 200, you know, unit shares of it. It's every domain is sort of like a unique asset, and the liquidity varies. Depends on the quality. I mean, we saw Blockchain.ai sold for $405,000 at a wholesale auction. I mean, it's a very liquid asset class, but there's so many factors that determine the liquidity of each unique domain name.
I think when we see like an auction like that, I think most domain investors are also business people. So many times we've all done it. You buy a name because you think, I'm an investor, but I'm also a builder. I'm also a business person. So you buy it sometimes because you think if I had to put it to use, it's such a great name, I could. So I think it's almost a combination of end user and investor when they're willing to pay those to pay a price like that. And anyway, Darpan even said in the article, 1 to 2% of people's portfolios get sold per year. Many names take several years. 80% of names, and he just coming up with numbers there. 80% of names never sell. Well, if never sell, well, that's not liquid. Okay, so yeah, these single words are liquid. 3 number, 3 letter, those are liquid. Sometimes for not the prices that people even paid for them. But when 80% of of a market or 90% of names aren't liquid, like you can't sell them. No, you can't sell them. Well, that's when I think, okay, so the liquidity, when they talk about that's just on a small area of names. And then I've always wondered, like I said, if um, Michael and David, the Costello brothers, they I say that like they're fucking Bud Abbott and Lou. But they if they had to sell, you know, traveler.com immediately, or nashville.com. Okay, I know they have a few folks that they would ring up, but what really is a liquid price for name? That's what I'm really interested in knowing. What, and then it changes if say you're going to, you know, Braden or Drew, and you've sold plenty of names to these guys, Josh. Well, if they just bought a bunch of shit, Drew offered. He was interested in a lot of cannabis names a few years back. Now he's like, look, I'm done, Todd. I'm fucking done, and I've sold my fucking the last ones I had that were worthwhile. These fucking whatever they are, the strain names. He sold those, for very reasonable prices, low, let's say, because he's like done with that sector. So, right, sometimes you can reach out to Braden. If Braden just spent a bunch of money on similar names and he's thinking, well, if you would have brought me that 2 months ago, I might have wanted it. Now I just picked up a couple that are just like that name, but the singular or the plural or something in that same space. And it's not that I don't have the dough, but I don't want to buy that right now. So liquidity is just weird, even really on the top end. But no one wants to. Uh, First of all, if you got a great name, you're never desperate. You ask, no one acts desperate with a great name because that just kill you. But okay, so I won't beat up that article. He did say he was talking about the biggest bottleneck was not demand but discovery, and that goes back to distribution. So he said in the thing, the biggest bottleneck was always not demand, because there's demand for domain names, but people want to discover. And we've done a terrible job as domain investors of, we should have always been saying from the day one, if you want a domain name, go to the domain name. Always remember that. Go direct. This was a dream for people buying shit forever. You always want to go directly to the manufacturer, directly to the owner. And domain investing, go directly to the owner, go directly to the name, or if we could have said, go directly to who is, now they make that so difficult. But now we've got ourselves in a mess where people look other places instead of going right to your name. We know people will go to the reg path, buy your name through GoDaddy when they could go directly to you. And since it's really got away from us, there's nothing you can do but sort of, harness in these horses and realize, okay, I'm going to have to deal. Ish said it right. The roads lead back to GoDaddy. It's no big deal. They've busted their ass, spent all sorts of money, fucked up a lot of stuff too, frankly, with regard, anyway. But
I'm going to
they,
make a prediction. I think Abdul Bassett will be back in Afternic in about 90 days or more. He might not announce it, but you just find out that they have so much influence and so much credibility and so much reach that it's just self-destructive, maybe not apparent initially, but over time, to just remove yourself from that. It makes no sense to me. And I mean, what he announced was he has an FT lender, which, yeah, cool, but your names are not going to have the same visibility as they would have been listed in those marketplaces. So whether FT's saving you 50% in commission or 100% in commission is irrelevant, if you don't have the sales velocity.
yeah, I'm just waiting for Josh to say something. Hey, Josh, you think, let's,
What do you mean?
let's just change.
You're the one who's leading this
Yeah,
show,
yeah.
right?
Hey, I want to change the subject to something lighter. I wanted to talk about was about, we got so many topics I want to touch on, but .org. I just wanted to ask you, Josh, I did have in the outline, is it still something to worth invest in? But when I say still, I don't know, was it ever? But how do you feel about investing in .org? I like it, but that doesn't mean much. What do you think about investing in .org domains?
Um, I think so. I've been pretty outspoken, I think, in my opinion around .org. I think it's undoubtedly a top three domain extension. I think that it has staying power, it has history, um, and I think it has a lot of demand. I'm going to be interested to see what Afternic, the data that Afternic releases on their. Hopefully, they do it again. Their yearly roundup on the TLDs and which ones were the most popular. Last year, .org was second behind .com. I expect this year it will be third behind .com and .ai. Um, but yeah, I'm a big fan of .org. I think probably my some of my most valuable domains are .org domain names, and yeah, I think they're viable investments. I think that since I started talking about them being great investments, it seems like the auctions are certainly going a lot higher. So yeah.
You make a point of, that's why folks, you know, promote their bags, as they say. People, and I guess the point is, it's only normal for you, if you like .org, to say I like it, and then of course people might listen to you, like E.F. Hutton in the old days. But Josh, I think certainly companies feel comfortable building on .orgs. It's just, did it ever,
Mm.
was it worthwhile? Was there enough activity in the aftermarket for domain investors? Because you really need to, like we did with .com, you need to sweep up, basically take a lot of them off the market for there to be an aftermarket. And .org was like, did people turn the corner? Are you, you said you have some great names, but over the last
Yeah,
couple of years? Have you made money off the .orgs? I mean, you seeing
Hmm?
activity selling them?
Yeah. I would say in the last 2 years is when I've really focused on buying .orgs. Prior to that, I didn't buy them at all. I didn't have any. So it's pretty early days, but um, I've had some pretty good offers on some of my better .orgs in a short period of time. High five-figure offers. I sold a .org for 60K. It was one of the only .orgs I had at the time. Um, listen, I'm very aware of guys that have sold some big .org names as well. Yanni, for those of you that know Yanni, he sells .orgs for a lot, and he's got a great portfolio of .orgs. Drew has a very, very good track record with .org. If you ask him what his second favorite extension is, he's going to tell you .org by far. And we all know what he says about .ai, and we all know that I don't fully agree with him on that. So, but he he loves .org. And then Braden, another guy who's big.com, Maxi, premium.coms, he's sold some .orgs for a lot of money as well. And some of my other friends that are, in the high end of that market have been buying a lot of .orgs recently as well. And I don't know if, some of that might be just the fact that I'm quite vocally bullish on .org. And believe it or not, I guess some people listen to what I have to say, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, TBD. Yeah, listen, for me, uh, it became, when you start looking at the data, analyzing some sales, getting a little bit of a look behind the scenes, it became quite obvious to me personally that from an acquisition standpoint, .orgs were undervalued relative to the upside compared to like going out and trying to find a premium.com, for example. It's very, very hard, very, very expensive. It's not always the case with the .org. And the three sectors that I'm most interested in from like a domain investing standpoint, I think appeal very well to the .org, and that is health, crypto, and gambling. Those three sectors, and all three of them are very comfortable using .org. So that's my bull thesis, and that's why I buy them, and that's why I've invested a lot of money into them recently. So, yeah.
Ish, I know you like .live and .club, but what about .org? Always have to just pick at somebody, huh?
I like, no, I love .org. I think .org is perfect for crypto. I was just tracking an auction. Chainlink.org just sold for over 5,000 a couple of minutes. Chainlink.org just sold for, I'm sorry, I had a call. Chainlink.org just sold for over 5 grand a couple of minutes ago. And there are a lot of established crypto projects that want to secure their .org because it's just, the norm for protocol to be on a .org. There's Ethereum.org. I sold nouns.org last year for 50 grand. And that was when I really realized, oh, the crypto guys really want to have their .org. Even if they don't build on it, they might want to use it for a DAO or something in the future. And I like what Josh said about the acquisition opportunity and arbitrage at .org. They seem to be easier to acquire. You might be able to get a good dictionary word.org for less than 5 grand that has a huge upside. And we all know that's not happening with .com.
You guys both make me want to get some crypto.org names. I mean, and I'm going to take a look. Well, I don't know where to look. Yeah, but no,
Yeah, for example, I just bought onchain.ai.org this week.
well, we're going to be talking about on-chain names, meaning on-chain plus a keyword or keyword plus on-chain. I was mostly thinking because I have some in .com that I've had for quite a while, that I've had for several years, that I wanted to see what you guys, who else is investing in those type of names. But yeah, I do like .org for crypto companies. And like you said, basically because DAOs, we have a Pay Now set up as it's a new type of DAO out of Wyoming. But the point is, they're really considered organizations, not-for-profit organizations or non-profit organizations, but they're interesting that it does make sense to me that why these uh, companies that plan on operating via through a DAO would like a .org, and I'm sure .dao is going to be applied for in the next round. Oh, I got some great stuff. If you guys are interested in possibly owning an extension, but you don't want to do it by yourself, go to tld.fund, okay, and take a look at this presentation, and then reach out to me and Jeff Newman, and there's guys here that I'm going to reach out to personally about to let you know what we're doing because it's heating up. But anyway, I'm sure .dao is going to be an extension that's applied for. Raghu, it's nice to have you here. How's everything going today? What comment do you have?
Good afternoon. Thank you. I'm doing great from last few days. I don't know why, but I'm feeling good. And for all your blessings and everybody's help, I'm doing great job here in my personal level. Now, and I'm very excited about a lot of things, and I can't tell you enough. But Josh, I really I want to buy this. What you're saying, .org for crypto or for gambling. I'm I have some evidence which I'm going to discuss with you, but I really want to understand more from you. Why would you say that it is good for crypto, which I'm not interested, but especially with the gambling.org? I don't get it, but yet I've seen that evidence. So can you please tell me more about it a little bit, just for a minute? Why
Yeah,
gambling?
yeah. So Drew spoke about this recently as well. I think it's because a lot of gambling institutions it's lead generation plays, and generation is have always been very comfortable using .orgs. Um, the uh, the other thing is it's kind of one of those things where I'm not exactly sure why certain industries adopt certain extensions, but they do. It's kind of like, why did crypto adopt .xyz? It's not abundantly clear, but all I know and that I can say for certain is that I am aware of lots of big sales in .org that went to um, crypto or sorry, that went to gambling related endeavors. One fairly recent one that was from a friend of mine was players.org. If you go to players.org, I can't say what it sold for because I don't know if it was ever public. I don't think it was, but if you go to players.org, you can see, you know, a
Yeah, but again, like
gambling
yeah.
website.
So I'm going to share one name with you as well, and if that is the case, I got it win. I already win, and just day before yesterday, and I'm going to share this with the because I'm excited about it. But matter of fact is, I would never think that way. Org will go with the gambling match. XYZ. What you talk about it is mathematically or some kind of science involved with XYZ extension to go with the crypto and all this. With the org, I'm still hard believer of this is non-profit number one. If it
It's because org evokes trust,
That's
right?
it.
trust,
That's it. That's
yeah,
it.
but not commercial versus totally money minded, which is
Well,
commercial of
they
gambling.
they're reverse. They're doing reverse psychology. So you see Oregon, your guard goes down, and next thing you know, you open up an account. So it's all about lead generation. The gambling sites want to a lot. They want you to be able to advertise on social media platforms, and what
Okay, that
you know
is
what I
the
mean.
reason.
So when they
Yes,
have like a name like players.org,
yeah,
those algorithms might not flag them as a gambling site,
right,
so to speak. Yeah, it's
yeah.
not as
That's
obvious.
right. That's
That makes
right.
sense. That makes sense with a keyword, right? Now I'm going to give you a keyword, which is amazing keyword. I just picked up, and because I have a niche of something in religious era of space. Okay, I have some. I'm working on that part a lot. This is my passion too, regarding religion, especially my own Hindu religion, which I follow. Now, I was surprised. I got this domain name because I back ordered and I got it, and nobody and the
Okay, what's the
domain.
name? What's the name? Let's
Yeah.
go.
Okay. So I hope you will get the spellings correctly. Swami. You know what is Swami? How you spell Swami?
No, I don't know.
SWAMI.
I would
S.
just I would say that's probably why you were the only one to get it.
No, no,
It's
no, no, no.
niche.
Wait. Don't jump. So Swami, if you know, is a very common term, just
Mm,
like a guru, and it's another word of definition of Swami is just like a guru. So
mm,
SWAMI. Okay, and then you add to it a J and I. And JI, it has another definition, which is makes perfectly sense with a Swami G. Indians will understand this flip of the finger. Now,
yeah.
if you Google that definition of Swami G, you will know what does that mean, and it's the perfect meaning shows in Google and Wikipedia and all that. Now, if you go swamig.club and so many other keyword with this, I notice big time gambling site. And yet, I was shocked, which I discovered before, not today. But Swamiji they are using as a big time gambling site. If you type Swami and a betting or gambling, you'll see ton of sites will come up with a Swamiji keyword. And I happens to get this swamiji.org. And I was so excited, not because of the gambling, because of it itself is shows exactly what it's supposed to be used for. And if you use swamiji.com, you will know what I mean. And I got myself org. And now it's a double bet for me. I mean, I'm not keen about selling or marketing this as a gambling. I am not a supporter of gambling, promoter of gambling. But my God, this is amazing. The information I'm getting from you .org as a gambling key for using. So this is something exciting for me. I want to share with you guys.
Okay, I see Brad came off mute. I have some
Yeah,
comments on that, but
I
Brad, go ahead.
thank you, Raghu. I think I understand. I'm into yoga, and I know that whole industry, and definitely ending with the JI is good. And Swami is a term that is kind of associated with, you know, wisdom or a guru. So, and in that regard, I think it's an excellent name. But I was wanting to comment about the .org with respect to why wouldn't you want the .org if you have the .com or even the .ai to control or at least to secure your brand? You know what I mean? If you get whatever you can, at least in the .org, if it associates with what you're trying to build in the .com. So it's more of a brand protection as well. I mean, it's good for lead gen, but I don't think that it's about doing it so much as an investment per
That's a great
se.
that's a great point, Brad. That's a great point that I would say a large majority of the big .org sales that I've seen as well have gone nowhere other than the corporate holding account of the .com owner, purely for brand protection, because .org is simply such a trusted and well sought after extension that the .com holder often just doesn't, if they get big enough, they don't want someone else with the ability to brand on the .org. They don't want someone else to have the ability to abuse the .org in some way that affects them. And also, there are many like larger companies. Once they get big enough, they want to add like a uh, an organization onto whether that be
Foundation, yeah.
some sort of foundation. Exactly, they want to add some sort of foundation to their business, some sort
Yeah,
of
that
Exactly.
makes
charitable
100%
cause.
sense. It's no doubt about it, Josh, from day one. But when you bringing in as a looking at crypto, and my objection is there. Crypto and betting on gambling.
Hold on, Ragu,
With
hold on.
.com, it makes sense,
Okay,
and
so
protection of your brand makes sense
right,
all
right,
the way.
and Josh said it. Really, a lot of companies do it. They really going to build some charitable arm to their company, and they know the .org makes sense. Companies use it
Right. They
frequently.
want to have a. They also want to have a public-facing, goodwill vibe as well. You know what I mean? So it handles a lot of that, demographic. But the most important thing is typing in the word or the words that are your brand, and you know having the opportunity to get the .org to the third most trusted is kind of a no-brainer if you can do that. But where I don't think .org works so well is in the AI. You know what I mean? For some reason, I don't know why. What are your thoughts about how the .org works with the .ai or a or an AI.com name?
Well, we'll touch on that, Brad. I want to ask Dave wants to say, but first I want to say about the .org with crypto. There's this decentralized. Um, it's called a DUNA. It stands for decentralized unincorporated.
Autonomous
Um,
autonomous organization.
yeah, no, I'm talking about a DUNA. It's like similar to a DAO, but it's called a decentralized unincorporated nonprofit association, something like that. Because basically the point is it's similar to a DAO, but it's for the nonprofit. DAOs are usually connected to maybe an LLC or a corporation, possibly, but the DUNA was set up specifically for nonprofit, and it's becoming very popular. If you're not in crypto and you're not worried about DAOs, then you don't give a shit. But it really is pop. So that's why crypto companies are interested in .org names for the popularity of how these companies are being structured. Hey, Dave, what's going on? And then we'll get to Bradley's question about .org versus, or does it work well with AI companies and so on?
Hey, Todd, good morning. Hey, Josh, good morning. Ish, great to see you. Raghu, thanks for the contribution. Real quickly, I just, on the .org, if somebody could give a little more feedback on how you're evaluating a .org as far as investing in it, when you see the com is gone, the net's gone, and, where's the real value there?
In my opinion, it depends on the industry. I'll give an example. Chainlink.org. My rep actually called me 3 days ago and it was like, "Oh, I found one you might like," and I put in a $3,000 proxy and it got ate up. Obviously, someone paid 5,300 for that this morning. And if you look under the hood, Chainlink, which is a multi-billion-dollar protocol that allows, I don't want to get too technical, but it's a crypto project, um, and they use Chain.link. I mean, if we were to do a survey, which one has more credibility, Chainlink.org or Chain.link? So I'd imagine whoever bought that is going to pitch it to Chainlink. And I think they have a high probability of being able to make that sale. If it isn't Chainlink themselves buying it directly at auction. Many examples like that. So, it depends on what they're using currently. And specifically in crypto, the .org is just, it just speaks to your maturity as a project. Like you have a huge community, you have a protocol, and I think .org is well established as a CLD to identify your crypto project as a protocol. So you won't see a meme coin project using a .org necessarily. They'll use like a .lol, but like top tier crypto projects like Ethereum exist on a .org. So that precedent has been set already. If it's good enough for Ethereum, why not?
Yeah, so the logic that I sort of grew up on in this industry was that for any organization that has a .com, they could care less about a .org for the most part. Same with XYZ, they could care less about a .org. So my question again is, how do you evaluate and determine, yes, I'm going to buy this .org name, knowing the exact match .com is taken and in use, how do you say, yeah, I'm going to buy this with that one potential buyer in mind? When do you, and then do you feel there's increased exposure to, say, a UDRP or some other action by taking that exact match.org?
I'll take this. I think that you should look to invest in .org in the same way that you invest in any alternate extension to .com. You know, there's no risk of UDRP but there's always a risk of a UDRP no matter what name you're investing in. More often than not, it's with a .com than anything else, though. But your .org, you should be looking at the same way that you look at a .ai or a .io, or even a .xyz. You want to buy the best of the best names. Now there's some nuance there, right? I mean, generally, you want to understand the target market that you're trying to appeal to, and then choose your SLD accordingly. But for me, when I say I'm investing in .org, I'm investing in best of the best type keywords where there are thousands of companies using that SLD. So I'm talking about stuff like legend.org or moment.org or abstract.org or things things of that nature. But yeah, I mean the risk of investing in any domain, regardless of the extension, is always there. And you should always be careful to invest in the right type of names to match your thesis on any given extension. I wouldn't be looking to purchase a name like some sort of, I don't know, like a porn site in .org or whatever, right? I would probably stick with .com in that regard. But yeah, and then like if I was buying a .xyz, I wouldn't be trying to purchase something like homes for sale .xyz because that's we know that that's not the type of name that appeals to someone that likes .xyz. You know, in .org, I might be a lot more interested in owning a name like addiction.org, for example, because it matches.
Yeah, but depend on the
Hold
keyword.
on, hold on, hold
Yeah.
on, hold on, Raghu. I haven't finished because addiction is obviously pairs well with community type vibe where helping people and healthcare and .org has historically been used for those kind of those type of things. They just go hand in hand. So yeah, I mean that's how I'd answer that question. And then like in terms of in terms of if it's taken in the .com and worrying about whether or not and just addressing your initial point, saying if a company has the .com, then they don't want anything else or they don't need anything else. That's certainly that's certainly true. Once you've got the .com, you've definitely got a leading edge. But there is also no doubt about it that brand protection still exists, and one of the top extensions that's purchased for brand protection is .org. So yeah, that's what I would say on
Yeah,
that
but
on that front.
Josh,
Let
sorry
me,
about that.
let me
Hold
say,
on,
Raghu,
hold on 1 second, please. Hold on 1 second. Josh.
Raghu, I need you to hold on for 1 second, okay?
Okay. Okay.
Let me
Go
just
ahead,
finish
please.
this thought, okay? So, Josh, I appreciate that. And by the way, you did qualify your thoughts about .org initially by stating the industries you thought they would be a good fit for. And I definitely agree that industry-specific use of .org can be profitable, can be good. So anyway, thank you, Josh. Thank you, guys. Thank you,
It's a
Raghu.
good question, Dave, and thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah, but Josh, I really want to say this. Okay. If it's a solid name built on an organization by .org, okay, and I tried this so many times, trying to convince them to go for .com as well. They bluntly say no. We are happy, and we purposely don't want a .com.
Okay,
I've seen it so many
Ragu, you don't
examples.
even have a question. You're just wanting to make a comment, and that's why when you and Yusuf do your room, you can just fucking go crazy and do what you want. But George has been nice, got his hand up. But anytime something comes to the top of your head, you have to just go off mute and fucking start talking about it. George, go ahead, and then Ragu, I'll get back to you in an
Todd,
hour or
go
so.
fuck yourself.
Yeah, George, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi guys, how you doing?
We're
Did
good.
did
Everything's
did
smooth as silk.
Raghu, you welcome you nice word I think, or
Yeah, we'll make it.
did I read it wrong?
Go ahead, make any
Ragu
comments
was
you want.
just talking about yoga and meditation and ends with "go fuck yourself." Very.
Yeah. On regards to what we last chat was about the .org, it's more likely on the rank is between. I mean, .com is .net. As I'm talking about on all the fashion, not now there are more than 2,000 extensions. .org and .net, they're almost the same sold for since they started.
No, they're not.
.net and .org. So what that means, .org can be anywhere between second and third choice to
No,
nobody.
George, there's an incredible amount of data out there now that just completely blows that out of the water. .net is not even in the vicinity.
I'm talking completely. I'm talking about completely on all data. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not talking.
In terms of what I care about is aftermarket sales data, and .org blows .net out of the water.
Yeah, .net is obsolete, George.
What I'm saying here is something which you can see as well. It's public. And about the price, I see a lot of domains sold for very, very good money, but nothing crazy like crazy. So like engineering.org was sold for 198,000 in 2003. That is one of the oldest I have. So if we go 2010, installment to poker.org, 325,000, which is quite. So it's installment is number 2, poker.org. So I don't even know. Autoinsurance.org, 2011 was sold for 440,000. And then you go down, Z.org was sold 2022 for 257,000.
Yeah, let me interject a second, because I think that we've all got access to the sales data, and we can all look that
Yeah,
up.
but
I will say this, let's assume that 1% of all of the .com retail sales are reported. You can assume the same thing for .org. So, and because that number of .org sales is, and any other extension for that matter, is so much lower than the quantity of .com sales, you're not going to see dozens and dozens of 6 and 7 figure .org sales. But that doesn't mean that they don't exist.
obviously, because I'm one of them, which I sold many domains, and no one knows how much being sold because it's being sold privately. A part of the auction. I mean, the auction everybody can see, but private sales, no one knows. It's a deal between 2 people or 3 or whatever. I understand that, and a lot of big brands, they don't want to put their price there because sometimes it can decrease the value. They don't want to do that.
No, they don't.
Because,
No, they don't. People talk to me all the time, and they say like, "What are you doing, man? Why are you telling everyone everything? It's just fun."
but what I wanted to say is, it's not .org is not really fashionable domain. This is what I want to say. I mean, yeah, in single words, like prestige words, fine, but it doesn't work in every word. .org. And
No,
I
I
agree
agree with
to
you. I mean, listen, when we're talking about alternative extensions, we're talking about a drop in the bucket compared to .com in any regard, right? Whether we talk about .com, .net or .org or .io or .xyz, right? These are all they're niche domain. They're for niches, and they perform far worse on at scale compared to .com. But yeah, I mean, like it's one of those things that I feel like this gets conflated quite often, where people just like kind of get carried away talking about an extension or what have you, and then it gets misinterpreted, and people start saying, oh, .com is king, .com is king. Yeah, like definitely. Nobody's saying anything other than, you know, .com is the most relevant extension, that it's abundantly clear that all of the aftermarket volume is essentially occurring in .com. But then, look down the chain and you say, okay, from an opportunistic standpoint, what other extensions can I invest in? What other extensions have some traction? And that's what we're doing. That's what are that's what you should be looking at when you're making an assessment as to whether it's a viable investment or not. Is like not comparing it to .com. There's no comparison.
Let me step in here because .org is one of the few extensions where there's some names that make more sense on a .org than even a .com. Make-A-Wish.org or HumaneSociety.org. All these names, any name that's good on a .net is better.
Or humanity.org or
And Josh said addiction.org. There's names that really make sense.
Right.
Sometimes they can be equivalent on a .com, but some, cure cancer, sometimes they just make much more sense. You don't even like to think that they're commercial at all. So that's what .org, so we're talking about here, and George, I know you know this, and the rest do too. We're talking, everyone knows there's, more than 1,000 extensions that resolve, in browsers. It's not just .com. So with these other extensions, where is there room for them? Where is there room to invest in them? And with .org, like I said, there's actually some names that makes more sense on a .org. There's no name that I think in the old days maybe of the network, the .net might have seemed more appropriate than even a .com. That's pretty much gone away. And like I said, with .ai right now, it's hot. So it does seem like, hey, this is an AI company. It makes more sense to be launch.ai instead of launch.com. But I think that will subside a little bit, meaning the .com ends up being the the number one option, or the recommended, or recommended extension. .org is just unusual that sometimes, and then we talked about, anyway, I'm just recapping for the fucking listeners, is we talked about how many times these great .com companies realize, yes, you know what, we want to have not only brand protection because we don't want somebody going on the .org, but it's no sweat to spend, if we can get it for a reasonable price, it's not a big renewal either, to have this charitable arm. I've done it for a few of my companies on a .com, get the .org, because then when you're directing people to that, like I said, that charitable portion of your company, or that give back area, you can organize yourself with the .org. Okay, I wanted to get to some on-chain with prefix. I own like videoonchain.com or post on chain or on-chain post even, because I thought posting on chain was going to be, basically I got, even, I don't know, magic on chain. I love the word magic so much that like I'll get that with any name. But Josh, when it comes to and Ish, definitely, he thinks so damn funny is what do you think about
It's the
on-chain
LA
names?
in you, Magic Johnson,
On-chain names, just like people are talking about AI as a prefix or a suffix. What do you think about on-chain as part of a domain name with another keyword?
Yeah, depends on the keyword, right? I mean, I think that onchainventures.com, onchaingroup.com, onchainsolutions.com, all great names. Would love to put those in my portfolio. When you start venturing off into other words, you start getting into the brandable category. I love them less, but there's sure there are some that are good. onchainnexus.com is probably a good name. That would probably be more brandable. Um, you know, yeah, I mean, the further down the rabbit hole you go, the less value there is.
I think if you look at the name value data, it hasn't proven to be a lucrative niche to invest in. What we're seeing are on-chain SLDs doing very well, and that's even recently. Someone DM me today. Someone actually posted that they registered onchain.fish. Right? And I did a post and someone DM me and said, pick up that onchain.horse for me. They were talking about Zed Run. I think Tony posted something like, can you pick that up for me? I'm traveling right now. I said, sure. Yeah, I don't know how many on-chain SLDs are claimed right now, but on-chain as a keyword, I would just urge people to proceed with caution. Outside of the type of names that you just stated, Josh, very few of them have any value. As of recently announced sales, I think the top on-chain keyword sale is in the 1000s. So, they sound good. They sound very, it sounds like a no-brainer, but where we're seeing a lot of interest is in just the on-chain SLD as a standalone. And you were seeing the .cc, the .net, the .fm, the .org is in use by Max and his team. They also have the .onchain extension on Web3 through Unstoppable, and I know for a fact they're applying for the ICANN CLD. So yeah, if you're going out there registering a bunch of on-chain words, which I've seen a lot of people, I did a post and I asked people to list them, and I was like, "Oh, you did that? Slow down. It's not
Who's
a
applying for
proven
on chain?
strategy yet."
Sorry to cut you
I
off.
I I unfortunately or fortunately I did that, and I got
No, I'm not
unchaingang.com.
saying they're bad names. I'm just saying like manage your expectations with them.
Yeah, I searched onchaingang.com because I was thinking chain, anything that already, like when you're on Match Game, I know you know that game with Gene Rayburn. Okay, not the new one, although Martin Short's funny as fuck.
Yeah.
Gene Rayburn, chain
I've-
blank, and then you go chain gang, or uh, I can't, that's more popular. So you got on chain gang. You must have got that
right.
about a
No,
couple
that
years
was
ago.
right.
Or,
But On Chain Gang, I think, has a rhythmic sound to it, and it creates a community. I think it has potential.
yeah, well,
It's got more potential than what Ish said before. Was that unhook the dot fish?
well,
No,
you
Unchained
said on chain, but
Fish.
I know.
onchaingang.com is one of the best names I've heard you say you had, Bradley. I mean, when I say best name, only because I liked it. I
Thank you.
searched that, but when did you get that? A couple years
I
ago?
hand registered. I know. I hand registered that in August.
Jeez, that was fucking right before I looked at it. Anyway, I was looking at it, and I know it's not
Yeah. No.
great,
Thank you.
but
Yeah. No.
it makes sense.
It
Chain gang,
it
on chain
it
gang.
does
It's fucking
exactly. But who's that? That's Pat Benatar, or Chrissy Hines and the
no, it was
Pretenders,
Chrissy
the
Hines.
Unchained Gang.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Hey, George, you still got your hand up. Were you wanting to comment on this?
I'll just propose something to all of you guys. Maybe it's going to work. I'm not sure how many have domain and they sell domain, but we're talking about domain. So why can't we just bring up our platform and bring all our domains in one platform and promote it? Because when you do like 50 or 100 different accounts and they have like more domains, it brings a lot of traffic.
So you're saying why
And we
wouldn't they
just
all just be in the same marketplace and all use the same name server? Say we got a marketplace, say if DNX was
Exactly.
private, DNX.com, and we all set our name servers to DNX, and then
Exactly.
we all, by pooling or grouping together all the traffic from all of our domain names, obviously would go there because we're using this. So you think having the names obviously go to your own landing page for your own name, but then if people wanted to check out, I think two things. One, check out portfolio from that seller, and then of course the overall marketplace portfolio. But Josh, what do you think of that? People have talked about it forever, domainers getting together and doing something like this, but does it make any sense?
I'm not sure. What we trying to? I guess I'm not sure. What were you trying to solve in that? Sounds like Afternic, right?
Well, they're trying to just cut those guys out. So basically, all the domain investors getting together saying, you own 1,000 names, I own 5,000, you own 10,000. If we all just use this public server or this, it doesn't have to be public. It can be, a
Mm.
private company that we all agree on. And then that means all of our type in traffic is going to go to
Mm.
that marketplace. And, obviously transactions, we could cut out everyone else. It does, I don't know. It doesn't mean we'd
So
have
who's
to change.
gonna do the payment processing and everything?
Well, the payment
Everyone,
processing
sorry,
is going to be done by.
sorry, DNX, I can help there. Payment process can be done
Yeah, I'll be
via
honest.
Well,
I'll be honest.
escrow.
Raghu will do it.
I have a pretty good understanding of what it takes to build these kind of platforms properly, and it's not that simple.
Yeah, Raghu will be the head of customer service.
Well, when you speak his name, I guess he's allowed to say something. Oh, he doesn't want to. Okay, he's upset. Okay, well, about the payment processing, I don't know why the reason it's such a big deal in the domain space is because Stripe or these, processors don't want to process things 3, 4, especially over 5,000 because they're doing a lot of credit card processing. So that is an issue. And then, of course, there's limits with like Zelle or Venmo, things like that. But when it comes to really basically processing, no domain company, well, I shouldn't say that. I don't know. Who does Atom use? ATOM. Who do they use if somebody wants to pay $3,000 for a, for a domain with their credit card? Do you know?
I use always escrow.com. I just use it like 3-4 months
I know
ago.
that's an option. I wondered if
You can certainly.
That
There's
is
certainly
that
You
is
solutions.
integrate
option.
you integrate paynow.com and boom, it's done. Everything is paid for. What are you talking about,
There you
Todd?
go. There
Yeah.
you go.
that's paying with crypto, but I'm just getting at if Atom or whoever it is, usually they just have an authorized.net, merchant account, or they have, there's obviously different merchant account providers, or they'll use Stripe or Amazon Pay or Google Pay. Even the big places don't usually do their own processing. GoDaddy came up with GoDaddy payments, but that's just a partnership with who I don't know, but they get a better deal because of this promise to do volume. But the point is, even the big marketplaces, they're all using the same processors, Stripe or, like I said, some merchant account provider if you want to pay with a credit card, or they're offering escrow.com, or they'll give you instructions on how to wire something directly. I guess it's Spaceship and Atom. You can wire money to Atom, and then Atom sends the money to the. Have you sold a big deal, Josh, where it has to be a wire at Atom, and then you get the money from Atom, correct?
We get the money from Atom. Yeah.
Obviously, it's not a direct, because, if you're doing a direct deal, we've all received wires directly from people. I'm just thinking, the big companies, the small companies, everybody has the same payment processing issues, and I don't even think they're issues anymore. Either you have a processor that approves what the fuck you're selling, and domain names, usually they'll approve it. I think people should take a close look at GoDaddy payments. If someone, I've used it, and I've set up my own landers to use it, but basically it's 2.3%, and you can, Actually, yours might be 2.9%. Some of us got some better rates because we started earlier on. But even at 2.9%, it's much better than the 5% that GoDaddy charges you for the direct lead. And you can still say, I'm using GoDaddy payments. It's that big company you were dying to use, GoDaddy payments, and you can pay with Google, Apple, credit card. And if you don't want to pay with those ways, those methods, then you can let them go to escrow.com, or I can tell them directly to wire it to you or whatever. But GoDaddy's just done a terrible job at promoting their GoDaddy payments. I think it's a great service, and if you apply to GoDaddy payments, because you do need to apply, and you tell them I'm selling domain names on my own marketplace, well, they're one of the few companies that understand that, because you can say that in the old days to other payment processors, even PayPal, and just say, what'd you sell? And it's like a digital item, a domain name. Now people are more familiar with it, but GoDaddy certainly is. But why no one, Josh, have you ever explored GoDaddy payments?
No, sir.
Well, that's something for DNX. We'll talk about that. GoDaddy loves the customers, but it has, it's not that you're dying to work with, GoDaddy to do your processing, but if they can beat other payment processors and are willing, and understand your business and the dynamics of the domain business, it's certainly something to check out, especially when it comes to this auction that you're going to have. I'm interested. Let's talk about that for a minute. What is happening? We're going to be around 15 more minutes. Anybody want to make any comments or questions, come on up. But Josh, what's the latest on the DNX auction?
Yeah. So I'm just focusing on releasing our management system. That's hopefully going to get released in the next 24 to 48 hours or so. People may or may not have come across our landers. If you want to check it out, just go to 99finance.com. That's the lander that I've been using. Today is probably not a good day to check it out, to be honest, as we're just migrating things over into the live environment. So things are going up and down, up and down. That's just going to be a platform where you can manage your domains. It syncs prices across all platforms. Well, the major ones: Cedo, Atom, Afternic. You can create landers. You can manage your inquiries. You can communicate back and forth within the platform. You can monitor your analytics, so it gives you all of the analytic data, and then you can monitor names, which has been a big request for DNX for a while. Essentially, put in the names that you want to monitor, and when they hit the marketplace or when price drops and whatnot, you'll get notified. All of these things are going to be released very soon, and you'll be able to see them in your DNX account soon. There's a whole lot of other things that we're working on as well, but auctions, essentially, what's going to happen will attempt to get a retail sale on the domain. In the contract, there will also be a pre-negotiated reserve price for if the domain does not sell at retail, it will go to auction. Those auctions will take place in the last 2 weeks of every quarter. So essentially, if your domain doesn't sell by day 75, it will go to DNX auction. It will be marketed to our buyers, and if it sells at the predetermined reserve price, it will sell, and if not, contracts up and you get the domain again. Those will happen once a quarter, and we'll probably aim to start that in 2026, just to not rush, because we got a lot of other things going on.
I just want to comment something real quick. I just want to give Josh his flowers. You're by far becoming, if not my favorite domain and one of my favorite domainers. Like, not just your transparency. I mean, you're very humble. You're very transparent. You share with people. You're a true leader, and you're really, like, more importantly, the way you innovate is just very impressive. And I think people take it for granted because you don't have to do these things. But I just watch the way you move, man. I love it. Keep going, bro.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. That means a lot. So I really appreciate that.
99 love balloons. Hey, so in the old days, Ish, guys couldn't give other guys flowers. So really, you're more progressive than you know. And I know people, and even Josh accepted them. Oh no, because yeah, some guy, hey man, don't do that. Basically, just complimenting for those who wonder what's going on here. Yeah, saying hey, um, and Josh, a lot of us do appreciate it. You know, I love, like I said, doing this show because I know how much people want to hear from you. And then, of course, I'm just like driving the car and slapping kids in the back seat, and you're riding shotgun. You know, it's got the fucking fresh coffee. But and people want to hear, you know, you're, you know, it's like a general and a soldier. You're fucking, you know, running companies, but you're down in the fucking fields in the, you know, with everybody else, you know, understanding, you know, different platforms. So it is interesting. We're lucky that we can all be here. I do appreciate George, Ish, Ragu. I appreciate you for being here. I appreciate Brad for being here. We're going to go for another 10 minutes. Um, yeah, Brad's coming back up on stage. But before we, you know, still got tons of topics, but about,
Well, let me just
yeah,
real
go ahead.
quick, because thank you, Todd, and thank you, Josh. Ish jumped in right when I wanted to get back on to say almost the exact same thing. I mean, after you explained all the work that you're doing to get this auction going and all the work that you've done, Josh, you really know your stuff, and it's super impressive. And it's so helpful to all of us to know that you have this love for the industry and the talent to make it grow with the skills that most of us don't have. And I want to give you some kudos. He gave you some flowers. I'm going to give you some kudos, but I also want to bring in Todd as a team. Todd and Josh, this broadcast. Todd, you've gotten so much smoother and more and engaging, and it makes this time on Thursdays here in Florida at 1 o'clock a really valuable contribution to the whole domain space. I just wanted to put that in. Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you. I want Josh to know when they're saying that about each of us, I sit back and I just sit back and I listen and I'm like,
Don't cry, Todd.
I'm
It's
like,
okay.
and I sit back listening and I'm actually making a wave like Brad knows. I'm waving my hand like he's the news guy. Keep going, Brad. You got 10 more seconds. I'm going to give you another 5. Keep going. But no, it is appreciated. And thanks, you know, it's really the domain space. Everybody loves, you know, we're domainers. We Name Pros. I loved when Paul was here from Name Pros. Everybody that's doing these forums and Ish, your room on Saturday's fantastic. You know, we all pat each other on the back, but basically we all do this to keep going. It's almost like it does really remind me of, okay, so this is the guy leading the running group on this day, on that day. We all meet over at Ish's play, and then we basically just keep moving this thing forward. And the guys at Sherpa, let's face the music, they always say, you know, grow the pie. Well, a lot of us have, you know, continued to do that. And that's why I think, you know, it's hugely valuable. I think what's more valuable than even, you know, I love DNW, I love Domain Sherpa. I listen to this shit. Okay, I listen to all this stuff. But I love the real time stuff that we get to do here. And, you know, X, whatever, you know, the platform, this just happens to be the one. But it's basically where people can go to live right then, what's the latest. And we're going to talk about one last thing before we shut it down today, and that was the risk of investing in ccTLDs. I bring it up because that blockchain.ai, you know, sold for a 405,000, but when you invest in a .ai, you're really at the mercy of who operates that. That registry, okay, really is managed. We say digital identity manages the extension, but it's really owned still by Anguilla, the government. They have this domain manager there who, you know, is the liaison between Identity Digital and the country, but the country owns it and operates this name. So when my partner Jeff Newman, an attorney, was he was representing Howard, Jeff mentioned this, who was the former owner of Blockchain.ai. The guy really did have a lot of interaction with this registrar of his, Only Domains. And the registrar accepted his money for renewal, but said, you're late, you need to pay this recovery fee. He paid that, and they said, for some reason, $7 was missing. He paid that and basically showed the receipts, but it still went to pending delete. And as soon as it went to pending delete, Jeff made it clear the only thing you can do is then contact the registry. So he reached out to the registry. He reached out to Identity Digital, who really is the service provider there. And he also copied Namecheap. And Jeff thought, he said this, he thought, listen, by saying, not just because I'm a lawyer, but we have documents to show this is what's gone on. For some reason, it still went to pending delete. I know this needs to be cleared up, but this he thought was enough information for Identity Digital and Namecheap to say, let's put this thing on hold because there is a claim here and it hasn't been filed in court yet, but it looks like a legitimate claim. They didn't do that. They said basically, if it's not filed in court and we don't have a court order, the domain manager, who's the person from Anguilla, said, fucking send it through. Well, you don't like that. I mean, if you were in the situation, you'd say, let's get this squared up, cleared up. And then if I truly don't have rights to it because I've let it drop, okay, then it can be auctioned off. But the point is, a registry that was under ICANN control, if it was a new GTLD, you would have had some recourse to go to ICANN as well. In this case, no. ICANN stays out of it. It's a ccTLD. And now what happened was the entities involved, public or Identity Digital and Namecheap, said, fuck, unless we get a court order, we're going to continue on. They went ahead and auctioned it off. The reason why Jeff is no longer representing the owner is because he had done some work for Namecheap before in the past and has a relationship with Namecheap, and he didn't want there to be even a look or any realistic conflicts of interest, because sometimes as a lawyer you have to be tough and you can't be nice to your opponents. So Jeff's handed it off to Mike Rodenbaugh, who filed a case against Namecheap, Identity Digital, and Only Domains. And I guess we're going to see if there was a temporary restraining order. All that I said, okay, so when it comes to investing in ccTLDs, it really doesn't hit my radar that there's the bigger risk because they're not overseen by ICANN the way a GTLD is. Josh, do you ever even think that?
Well, Todd, can I just ask a question real quick? Does that mean Anguilla, the guy, wanted that name for themselves?
Well, I'm assuming they wanted the money because Namecheap sells it. Namecheap gets a small piece of it. They give the rest of the money to Identity Digital, and Identity Digital has an agreement with Anguilla, just like they do for a registration. I believe they give Anguilla 80%, maybe even more. Anguilla got a lot smaller percent before, but then they signed this agreement with Identity Digital to handle the extension for them, and they get, I think it's 80 to 90% of revenues received, generated by that extension. I don't know specifically what the deal is, but so that would mean if it sells, Namecheap gets something out of it, certainly. And this is because it's a deleted name, a registry name. And then Identity Digital gets their cut because they're handling the business for Anguilla, for that domain manager. But then I'm believing that the domain, Anguilla, if that name sold for 405,000, I'm assuming Anguilla gets 300,000, and maybe the other two get 50 each. I'm just giving you some numbers, meaning that I believe Anguilla gets the majority of that money, so they would want it to sell. Now, like I said, we're going to know a lot of specifics because I'm talking to all the lawyers about what's going on here, and basically the chips are going to fall. But I still don't know whether is it been locked, because what did the courts order? They could have ordered something the last couple of days. I don't stay on it, but Josh, when you're investing,
could Anguilla think that it could have gotten a lot more for it if they held it?
Well, I don't know. Could they have gotten more if there wasn't, Mike Rodenbaugh, the lawyer who hasn't posted on X for years? He started posting on X the other day, right on the the thread of the auction saying, hey, whoever buys this, you're going to be caught up in a lawsuit. Just like buying a house and someone saying, the former owner's saying he has claims to this house, so you guys buying it, if you guys want to bid it up, go ahead. So I certainly don't think it helped the auction, but how much it hurt it, we don't know. 405,000 is pretty big for an auction, for a .ai, even though it's a great name, Blockchain.ai. So I'm finally getting to this question. We got 3 more minutes. Josh, do you even think when you invest in a .co or a .ai that, oh no, this is different than an ICANN extension, I need to be concerned?
I mean, yes, and that I mean, in this particular case, I would never want to pay that much for Blockchain.ai. Forget the name, right? Forget about whether or not you think it's a good name or a bad name. That's irrelevant. But I would assume that the buyer was not fully aware of just the amount of baggage that is coming along with that domain. Um, Gosh, it's not something that I would want to deal with. You're already paying. I mean, let's face it, you're already paying retail price for that name. I mean, it's it's the top 5 sale of all time. So uh, you're paying a retail price for a name that yeah, like we said, is coming with a lot of baggage and is also a ccTLD that is, you know, got some questionable history in regards to management, and it's obviously now it's with Identity Digital, which helps, but yeah, there's certainly no shortage of risk in that purchase.
Yeah, I mean the the risk. I mean, I think that what they could think is, if I don't get it, I'm going to get refunded. But if I were them, I would have won the auction if they really wanted to go for it, and then not pay until Namecheap. So I won. I'm ready to pay, but since this is, since there is going to be a court order here in the next day or two, I'd get my lawyer involved then with the lawyers over at Namecheap and say, we won this name. We want to be clear that we're ready to pay for it, but we think, it's prudent of us to make sure if any court order comes down, there's no reason for us to pay and then you to refund us if for some reason they're saying this name can't be transferred to us. Because I don't think it gives them any more right to show, hey, we won it and we paid, because I wouldn't want to be out to 500,000 or 400,000 and then wait for it could really get locked up. And then Namecheap's not Epic, okay, at least, but you wouldn't want Namecheap to say, hey, we're going to hold the money because we believe we're going to succeed in showing that this name was deleted and it should have been auctioned. It was, legally auctioned, and they might want to keep the number because they know if we give it back, maybe we won't get it from you again because people end up finding other names or finding, alternatives. So yeah, I certainly wouldn't pay, but I think if you really were in the position, you were the winning bidder and you believe you got a good price on it, I'm still not sure. So before we close down today, Josh, do you think blockchain.ai, it's a pretty great name with .ai. So do you think, I mean, what would be a good wholesale price for that, or something that would think you would actually consider buying at wholesale, and then what would you price it at?
What would I consider purchasing at wholesale, like in regards to which name?
Blockchain.ai. So if,
Oh,
yeah,
oh, I think that pre that auction, I mean, everyone's going to be judging me on hindsight now because they've seen it sell for so much. But before that auction, I wouldn't have paid more than 50, probably 50. I would have been stretching. I would have probably had consulted a few friends and be like, oh, I'm umming and ahhing, should I do that? But I would say probably around 50, but definitely not more than that.
and then what would you price it at? If you did pick it up at 50K, would you be pricing it at the 400 or 500 like it actually
Yeah,
sold
like
for?
750 with the objection to get, with the objective to get, what it sold for at auction.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that. I mean, no, and I know a lot of folks feel it, boy, it's so hot right now. What a great SLD, and that's the hottest extension. So people think it
Like,
was,
isn't blockchain.ai like a better domain name than like nano.ai, for example? Because if someone wants to pay me 400K for nano.ai, let me know. I'll take it.
Let me ask my nano. That's why I call it. I'm just kidding. All right, everybody. That's it for today. I got stuff to do. So does Josh. But we always do this quit just right before 3 p.m. Eastern, right before noon on the Pacific, because I have some things to have. But we really appreciate it. You guys being here. Thanks for anybody listening on a replay. We're going to be here next Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern for the DNX show. Once again, thanks everybody for sticking around and listening. And then enjoy your day wherever you're at. The rest of it. Take care.